Hi, my name's Ed Lyons. I'm an optometrist from Flint Partners Optometrists in Wolverhampton, and I have a special interest in sports vision, and I'd be delighted to assist you in improving your visual performance for paintball. Hi, this is Ed Lyons. In this video series we're going to talk about vision. Now many of you might think about your vision as in how far down on a standard optician's chart that you can see. But we know that vision is much more complicated than that. It's not just how clearly you see, but it's how your brain deals with this visual information. It's how your visual cortex processes the information from each eye and gives you a 3D stereoscopic picture of where you are relative to space. So this piece of equipment is going to help us to look at 10 key visual skills, which is really important for making sure that you're seeing to your potential and playing to your best. The first one is visual clarity. So this is simply put how clearly you can see at distance. Now visual clarity can be affected by things like myopia, which is short-sightedness, hypermetropia, which is long-sightedness, and astigmatism. And astigmatism is really common. All astigmatism is, it's a difference in the curvature of the eye. So the eye is a little bit more rugby ball shaped than spherical, like a football, for example. Unfortunately, all of these things can be corrected by glasses, contact lenses, and even laser surgery. But often we tend to take our eyesight for granted, and sometimes we can be missing out some really critical detail that is going to affect our performance on the pitch. So if we just activate this little system, what we can see with this is we have a little ring, and the ring's got a gap in it. And what we have to do with this part of the test is to identify where the break is. So we're looking for this just noticeable difference. Now this is a really big target to begin with, but as we progress into the system, they get really small. And the idea is to try and find an absolute threshold of acuity and where we can see that fine detail. And obviously when we're translating this to playing paintball, we need to try and make sure that we're able to differentiate our opponent from the background at all times. And also to make sure that if they're wearing different coloured clothing, that they're not blending in too much, or differentiating an opponent from a friendly team member. And that comes down to our visual acuity, how clearly you can see. Okay, so with this test, we're going to interact with the system using the smartphone. So this is Bluetoothed in, hopefully. So if we double tap, this is just going to give us a little practice. So with this one, we're going to look at the ring, and the gap is on the right. So we're going to swipe to the right, we're then going to swipe down, and we're then going to swipe to the left. Now, once we enter the test proper, these are going to get really small. Now, during the actual testing phase, we usually do this on the tablet on the top. And the idea is to get as small as possible to find that maximum level of resolution. But for now, we're going to do it on the big screen just to sort of explain it. Now we typically do the test with one eye at a time because it's very common for people to feel that they've got really good vision, but actually they've only necessarily got vision in one eye. So it amazes me how many times we see an athlete and they feel that they don't have any visual problems, you cover one of their eyes up and all of a sudden they can't see. And it can be an absolute game changer to give somebody equivalent vision in both eyes, because that improves our depth perception, and our depth perception helps us to differentiate where we are in space relative to our opponents. So how far away that person is. If we're doing that one-eyed in a monocular state, it's much less accurate than with two eyes in a binocular state. So trying to improve people's eye synergy is really important. So if we just have a little look at this one, obviously we're going down, we're getting smaller, we're down again, we're going higher, we're now down. Now we're getting into hyper acuity. So if you can imagine this target shrunk down fivefold onto the tablet, we're dealing with a really high level of resolution. So what I need to do is probably need to start getting things wrong. So let's have a little look. Okay. And now we do it with two eyes together. Now, using both eyes together is really important. We often get a higher level of visual acuity with two fully functioning eyes. So we get something called binocular summation, where the brain adds the clarity of the right eye to the clarity of the left and gets an overall better two-eyed stereoscopic picture. Now, if I start to deliberately get some of these wrong, you'll see the target starting to get bigger again. So this is using what we call a staircase algorithm, trying to work out what's an accurate response and trying to find that person's legitimate threshold. So again, we'll get a few more of these, just put some random ones in, we'll get a few right, and it's going to work out where my threshold is. There we go, and that's visual clarity testing complete.